He sat across from me at the diner, rubbing his chest with slow, deliberate motions. "Must be that chili," he muttered, shaking his head. "Heartburn's a killer tonight." I watched as he took another sip of water, his fingers pressing against his sternum. Something about the way he winced made my gut tighten. "You all right?" I asked, trying to sound casual. He waved me off with a small chuckle. "Just indigestion. Had it plenty of times before." His voice was steady, but his face told a different story. The man sitting there was my oldest friend. We had seen a lot together. The kind of friendship that survives decades of life storms. And in all those years, I had never seen him wince like that. It was small, just a flicker of pain in his eyes, but it was there. He kept talking about the game, about how his grandson was learning to throw a curveball. But every few minutes, his hand would go back to his chest, pressing just a little harder. I told myself it was nothing, just like he did. An hour later, we stood outside saying our goodbyes. He gripped my shoulder, gave me that same easy grin I had known for years. "See you next week," he said. Then, as he turned to walk to his car, he paused. Took a breath. His jaw clenched. And in the blink of an eye, he was on the ground. I ran to him, shouting his name, shaking him, my heart pounding so hard it felt like my ribs might crack. His face was pale. His lips had a faint bluish tint. I fumbled for my phone, dialing for help with hands that wouldn't stop shaking. Minutes felt like hours. I kept talking to him, telling him to hold on, that help was coming. But deep down, I knew. The man who had been like a brother to me was slipping away right in front of my eyes. By the time the ambulance arrived, it was too late. The paramedics worked on him, but there was nothing more they could do. Later, the doctor told me what I already feared. A heart attack. The kind that sneaks up on you, disguising itself as something harmless. The kind that gives you just enough warning to make you think it's nothing. And then it takes everything. I sat in that waiting room, staring at the floor, replaying every moment of that evening in my mind. That little wince. That hand on his chest. That 1 second of hesitation before he fell. And the worst part? I had seen it before. I had read about it, heard stories, even warned others. But when it was my best friend sitting across from me, I let myself believe it was just indigestion. I need you to hear this. Not just listen. Not just nod and file it away for another day. I need you to let this sink into your bones because it might save your life or the life of someone you love. A heart attack is not always a dramatic scene like in the movies. No clutching the chest in agony. No falling over instantly. Sometimes, it whispers before it screams. Sometimes, it feels like heartburn. Sometimes, it feels like a little pressure, like someone is just resting a hand on your chest. Sometimes, it's a bit of nausea, a little dizziness, a moment where you feel off but can't explain why. And that's where the danger lies. Because most people, especially stubborn ones like my friend, think it's nothing. They take an antacid. They lie down. They tell themselves they will feel better in the morning. And some of them never wake up. You have to be smarter than that. You have to listen to your body when something feels different. You have to push past the voice that says, it's nothing. Because sometimes, it is something. And if you wait too long, you won't get another chance. I know a man who ignored it. He had been feeling off for days. A little pressure in his chest, a bit of shortness of breath, but nothing too serious. He figured he was just tired. He even went to the gym, thinking a good workout would shake it off. He barely made it through his routine before he collapsed. They said later that his arteries were almost completely blocked. If he had gone to the doctor just a day earlier, they could have saved him. But he waited. He thought it was nothing. I also know a woman who listened. One evening, she felt a strange tightness in her chest. Not pain, just a discomfort that wouldn't go away. She hesitated, just for a moment, but then she remembered a story she had once heard about a man who ignored his symptoms. She drove herself to the hospital. That decision saved her life. The doctors found a blockage and treated it before it could take her away from her family. That is the difference between life and death. A moment of hesitation. A decision to act or to wait. And I know how easy it is to brush things off, especially if you're the kind of person who has spent a lifetime toughing things out. But listen to me. Being tough won't save you. Getting checked will. If you ever feel something in your chest that isn't normal, even if it's just mild discomfort, go to the doctor. If you feel short of breath for no reason, get checked. If you feel sudden fatigue, dizziness, or nausea that seems out of place, don't ignore it. And if someone you love is experiencing any of these, don't let them wave it off. Be the voice that insists. Be the reason they get help. I would give anything to go back to that night and do things differently. To tell my friend that he needed to go to the hospital right then and there. To drag him there if I had to. But I can't. All I can do now is tell you this story and hope that it reaches the right person at the right time. One moment can change everything. One decision can be the difference between life and death. If you think something might be wrong, don't wait. Don't assume. Don't risk it. Because the ones who love you need you here. And nothing, not pride, not stubbornness, not the hope that it will go away on its own, is worth more than that. Now, let's clear some common questions. What are some real-life stories of people who ignored the signs, and those who listened just in time? I have seen both sides of this. The ones who brushed it off, convinced themselves it was nothing, and never got another chance. And the ones who hesitated for just a moment but then made the decision that saved their life. These stories stay with me. They are not just words. They are faces, voices, people I have known. And every time I think about them, I wonder how many others are out there right now, feeling that same quiet discomfort in their chest, telling themselves it is just something they ate. I knew a man once. Stubborn as they come. The kind of guy who never went to the doctor unless something was broken or bleeding. One evening, after dinner, he felt a dull pressure in his chest. Not pain. Just an odd tightness. He figured it was indigestion from the heavy meal and took an antacid. It did not go away. A little while later, his left arm felt strange. Not numb, not in pain, just a little off. He shook it out, rubbed his chest, told himself it was nothing. His wife begged him to go to the hospital. He laughed. Said he had work in the morning and was not about to spend the night in an emergency room over a little heartburn. He went to bed that night, still feeling that tightness. Never woke up. His wife found him in the morning, his face peaceful, as if he had simply drifted off. But inside, his heart had fought and lost a battle he never even realized he was in. The doctors later said that if he had come in, even in the early hours of that discomfort, they could have saved him. A simple procedure. A blockage cleared. A life extended. But he waited too long, convinced himself it was nothing, and that was the end of it. Then there was a woman I met years ago. She was sitting at a cafe, drinking her usual cup of tea, when she felt something strange. A flutter in her chest, a lightheaded feeling that came out of nowhere. She shook it off, but it lingered. It was not pain, just a vague unease, like something was not quite right. She thought about ignoring it. She was healthy, after all. No history of heart problems. But something in her gut told her to check. She walked herself to the nearest clinic, expecting them to tell her she was overreacting. Instead, the nurse took one look at her, ran a quick test, and within minutes, she was in an ambulance on the way to the hospital. Her arteries were nearly blocked. A heart attack was moments away. If she had ignored it, waited until she was feeling worse, it might have been too late. But because she listened to that quiet warning, she lived. Then there was my uncle. A big man with a laugh that could shake a room. He had been feeling off for days. Not sick, just tired. More tired than usual. He chalked it up to work, stress, getting older. One night, he sat down in his favorite chair after dinner and let out a long sigh. "Feel a little weird," he said, rubbing his jaw. His wife looked up. Weird how? He shrugged. Just a little pressure in my chest. Feels like it's in my back too. She stood up immediately, keys in hand. We are going to the hospital. He rolled his eyes, said he would be fine, but she did not give him a choice. She drove him there, grumbling the whole way about how he was sure it was nothing. By the time they arrived, he was sweating. By the time they got him into a bed, the doctor told him he was having a heart attack right then and there. They rushed him into surgery, cleared a blockage, saved his life. He would later say that if his wife had not forced him out of that chair, he would have stayed put and gone to bed. And he would not have woken up. Then there was my friend. The one I told you about before. The one who sat across from me at the diner that night, rubbing his chest, laughing it off. I have replayed that evening 1,000 times in my mind, wondering if I should have pushed harder, insisted he go straight to the hospital. But he waved me off. And I let him. And an hour later, he was gone. There's a fine line between a life saved and a life lost. And more often than not, that line is drawn by a simple decision. To go. To wait. To listen. To ignore. It is not always about pain. Sometimes, it is just a feeling. A little discomfort. A strange pressure. A moment of dizziness. The body has ways of whispering before it screams. And those whispers are easy to dismiss. I have learned this the hard way. I have sat in funeral homes with grieving families who said, he thought it was nothing. I have also stood in hospital rooms where a doctor looked at a patient and said, good thing you came in when you did. I have seen both outcomes. And I can tell you which one you want to be on. If you ever feel something unusual in your chest, your arms, your jaw, your back, do not wait. If you feel breathless for no reason, if you feel suddenly exhausted, if you feel something is just not right, do not brush it off. Do not try to be tough. Do not let pride or stubbornness or the belief that it will go away on its own keep you from seeking help. Because I will tell you this. No one ever regrets going to the doctor and finding out it was nothing. But the ones who wait too long, they do not get the chance to regret anything at all. How can you prevent yourself or a loved one from becoming another tragic statistic? I have seen too many people ignore the warning signs, too many families left behind asking, what if? The truth is, most tragedies are not sudden. They build slowly, quietly, giving warning after warning that too many people choose to ignore. But it does not have to be this way. You do not have to be another story of what could have been prevented. You do not have to let someone you love slip away because of a mistake that could have been avoided. The first and most important thing you can do is listen. Not just hear. Truly listen. Your body has ways of telling you when something is wrong. It does not always shout. Sometimes, it whispers. A little discomfort in your chest. A strange tightness in your jaw. A feeling of exhaustion that does not make sense. A moment of dizziness that comes out of nowhere. Too many people brush these things off, thinking they will pass. But if something feels off, even in the smallest way, you have to take it seriously. I knew a man once who ignored it. He had been feeling tired for weeks, more tired than usual. He figured it was just age catching up with him. He started getting winded doing simple things. Walking up the stairs made his chest feel tight. He thought he was just out of shape. One afternoon, he was carrying groceries into the house when he felt a strange pressure in his chest. Not pain. Just pressure. He sat down, waited for it to pass. And it did. So he convinced himself it was nothing. That night, he went to bed and never woke up. Then I knew a woman who did the opposite. She felt something similar. A tightness that did not quite feel right. A wave of nausea that made no sense. She could have ignored it. Could have told herself it was stress, or something she ate, or just a passing thing. But she remembered a story she once heard about someone who ignored the signs. So she went to the doctor. And they found a blockage. She had surgery that week. She is still alive today because she listened. It is not just about listening to your own body. It is about paying attention to the people you love. Too many times, I have heard stories of someone who said, "I am fine," when they were anything but. And the people around them let it slide. Maybe because they did not want to argue. Maybe because they were afraid of overreacting. But I will tell you this. It is better to overreact than to regret not acting at all. If someone you love is rubbing their chest, wincing now and then, looking a little pale, do not just ask if they are okay. Watch them. Pay attention to the small things. Are they out of breath after doing something simple? Do they seem more tired than usual? Have they been complaining about heartburn that does not seem to go away? If the answer to any of these is yes, do not let them brush it off. Speak up. Insist. Take them to the doctor if you have to. Because if you do nothing, you might spend the rest of your life wishing you had done more. One of the biggest mistakes people make is thinking they have time. That they can wait until morning. That they can see how they feel in a few hours. But time is not always on your side. A heart attack does not wait for you to be ready. It does not care if you have plans tomorrow. It does not give second chances. If you think something might be wrong, act now. Do not wait. Do not hesitate. Call for help. Get to a hospital. Because the difference between life and death is often just a matter of minutes. Another thing people do not take seriously enough is their health before there is a problem. Most people only start thinking about their heart after it has already given them a scare. But by then, the damage might already be done. Prevention is not about reacting to danger. It is about making sure the danger never comes. Eat food that does not clog your arteries. Move your body every day. Do not wait until you are sick to start taking care of yourself. I had a friend who never thought much about his health. He ate what he wanted, never exercised, figured he would deal with problems when they came. Then one day, his doctor told him he had high blood pressure and cholesterol so bad it was a miracle he had not had a heart attack yet. That was the wake-up call. He changed his diet, started walking every morning, took his medication seriously. 5 years later, he is still here, healthier than he has ever been. But I have also known people who got the same warning and did nothing. They told themselves they would start eating better next week. They would exercise when they had more time. They never got around to it. Some of them are not here anymore. Another thing that gets ignored far too often is stress. People think stress is just part of life. Something you push through. But stress eats away at you. It wears down your body in ways you do not even realize until it is too late. Constant stress raises your blood pressure. It weakens your heart. It makes you more likely to ignore the signs when something is wrong. You have to find a way to slow down. To breathe. To rest. Because if you do not, one day your body will force you to. And by then, it might be too late. If you want to prevent yourself or someone you love from becoming another tragic statistic, you have to stop assuming it will not happen to you. Because that is what everyone thinks until it does. You have to be willing to act at the first sign of trouble. To push past pride and stubbornness and fear of overreacting. To take care of yourself before it is too late. I have lost people who should still be here. People who had every chance to prevent what happened but did not take it. I have also seen people who made the right choices, who listened to their bodies, who took the warnings seriously. They are still here because of it. And that is the difference. A choice. A moment of action instead of hesitation. If you think something is wrong, do something. If you love someone, do not let them ignore the signs. Because once they are gone, all you will have left are the what-ifs. And trust me, you do not want to live with those. What simple, life-saving habit should everyone adopt to recognize and respond to heart attack symptoms before it's too late? I have seen too many people taken too soon because they did not recognize the signs. They did not act fast enough. They did not know what to do. And every time I hear about another one gone too soon, I wonder how different it could have been if they had just paid attention. If they had known one simple habit that could have saved their life. It is not complicated. It is not something that requires special training or equipment. It is just this. Pay attention to your body and act immediately when something feels off. That is it. That one habit. Simple, but powerful. Because your body is always talking to you. The question is, are you listening? I knew a man who did not listen. A strong man, proud, the kind who never complained. One evening, he felt a strange pressure in his chest. Not pain, just an odd heaviness. He told himself it was heartburn. Drank some water. Took an antacid. When his wife asked if he was okay, he waved her off. Just something I ate, he said. A few hours later, he was gone. Then there was a woman who did listen. She was sitting at home when she felt a sudden wave of nausea. A tightness in her chest. She did not feel right. It was not pain, but it was something. And instead of brushing it off, she picked up the phone and called for help. By the time she got to the hospital, the doctors told her she was moments away from a massive heart attack. They saved her life because she listened. That is the difference. One person ignored it. One person acted. And the outcome could not have been more different. Too many people assume a heart attack will feel like it does in the movies. A dramatic clutching of the chest. A sudden collapse. But most of the time, it is quieter than that. It sneaks up on you, disguising itself as something harmless. A little discomfort in your chest. A sudden fatigue. A strange pain in your arm or jaw. Maybe you feel short of breath doing something that never used to be difficult. Maybe you feel lightheaded for no reason. These are not always obvious signs. But they are signs. The mistake people make is waiting. They think, let me see if this goes away. They convince themselves it is nothing. They tell themselves they will feel better in the morning. But a heart attack does not care if you have work in the morning. It does not care if you have plans. It does not wait until you are ready. And the longer you wait, the worse your chances get. I knew a man who thought he had time. He had been feeling off for days. A little more tired than usual. A little pressure in his chest now and then. He figured he would go to the doctor when he had time. But time ran out. He was sitting at his desk at work when he suddenly felt dizzy. He stood up, then sat back down. He was dead before the ambulance arrived. Then I knew another man who took his symptoms seriously. He was working in his garage when he felt a sudden wave of exhaustion. He was not doing anything strenuous. Just organizing a few things. But he had to sit down. He felt a little tightness in his chest. A little pressure. He could have ignored it. But he remembered something his father once told him. If something feels wrong, do not wait. So he called his wife, and they went straight to the hospital. The doctors found a blockage. They treated it before it turned deadly. That decision saved his life. You do not need to be a doctor to know when something feels different. You do not need medical training to know when something is not right. You just need to pay attention. And then, the most important part. Act. Do not second guess. Do not tell yourself it is nothing. Do not be embarrassed about going to the doctor. No one ever regrets getting checked and finding out they are fine. But too many people never get the chance to regret waiting too long. Another thing. You have to teach the people around you to do the same. Because sometimes, they will see it before you do. If someone you love looks pale. If they are holding their chest or rubbing their arm. If they seem suddenly exhausted or short of breath, do not just ask if they are okay and accept a weak "I am fine." Watch them. Insist they get checked. Call for help if they refuse. Because people die every day not because they did not have a chance, but because they did not take it. I had a friend whose father was the type to brush everything off. One afternoon, they were watching television together, and his father kept shifting in his chair, rubbing his chest. He looked uncomfortable, but when asked, he said it was nothing. My friend did not let it go. He told his father, "Either you let me drive you to the hospital, or I am calling an ambulance." His father sighed, grumbled, but got in the car. By the time they got there, the doctors told him he was in the early stages of a heart attack. A few more hours, and he might not have survived. Every second matters. A heart attack does not always kill instantly. Sometimes, it starts slow. It gives you a warning. If you take that warning seriously, you can stop it before it is too late. If you ignore it, you may not get another chance. And here is another simple habit that can save your life. Know the emergency number in your country. And do not hesitate to use it. People waste time debating whether or not to call. They sit there wondering, is this really an emergency? By the time they decide, the damage is already done. If you even think you might be having a heart attack, call. Do not drive yourself. Do not wait to see if it gets worse. Call. Get help. Live. I have seen too many people leave this world too soon. I have heard too many stories that did not have to end the way they did. But I have also known people who made one simple choice. They paid attention. They acted fast. They refused to wait. And because of that, they are still here today. That is the habit that can save your life. Pay attention. Do not wait. Act. Because the difference between a survivor and a statistic is often just a matter of minutes. And those minutes start the moment you decide to take your health seriously. If you liked today's discussion, don't forget to like the video, and if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, hit the subscribe button and the bell icon to stay updated with every video we release. And yes, don't forget to share your experiences and thoughts in the comments. Every comment is special to us. Your feedback helps us improve further. We'll continue to meet you in every new video on this channel, so until next time, take care.